welcome to Gamers Weekend Gaming, beginning of December issue. It's myself, it's Myre. We're talking about gaming and all things gaming news. There's not really that much to discuss this week, but we'll discuss it anyway. I'm just gonna go ahead and make a bold assumption that you've just been playing Star Citizen all week.
Mostly, but I also played a game called Tin Can this week as well. Yeah, it came out a couple months ago. It's a game where you're in space. Okay, big surprise. And it's just the most panic-inducing thing ever. Essentially, you're in an escape pod, and your job is to keep that thing up and running until you get saved, right? By, a rescue thing. So you have to keep everything online. Your oxygen, your CO2, like air pressure, everything basically. And fuses break and things happen. You're in a meteor storm and seal things.
Fun.
It's pretty fun. Very stressful, but also pretty fun.
Do you need a brain to play it? Is it like a turn your brain off kind of, you don't need to think about it too much? It is on screen, you press the thing, or do you have to think about it?
You kind of have to think about it. It's a bit of a troubleshooty kind of game.
That's fun. Okay, no, you're appealing to me. What's it called?
A Tin Can. It's $5 right now on Steam.
All right, thank you.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Giving me a game to play this week. This happens, I think, quite frequently. Actually, you come across these indie games, and then.
That being said, have you still played Still Wakes the Deep, or Slay the Princess?
No, I was actually thinking about playing Slay the Princess last week, but I ended up playing Storage Hunter Simulator instead. Almost as good, honestly, almost as good. Actually, more well-rounded as a game than I thought it'd be, but also simultaneously far less than you think they'd be as well. So quite an impressive combination there. But yeah, I played that. It was certainly a game. Played a few hours of it, and that's it. I think that's pretty much. I played a bit of Final Fantasy 14, but I've mostly just been doing roleplay stuff this week, so I haven't played.
I mean, roleplay is gaming. What have you done in roleplay? Like all that stuff.
That is a loaded question I refuse to answer. For anybody new, we both play, well, you used to play an unhealthy amount, now it's just me again, of Red Dead Redemption roleplay, which is all just like video game. Yeah, video game based RP, which is really fun, like in its own way. It's the server we play on is very slow burn, very like as professional, I suppose, this RP can get, as in people take it fairly seriously. So it can be really fun and rewarding because there's like really intense stories. But yeah, I play a sheriff on there, so I've been kind of bogged down in a lot of stuff. But yeah, apart from that, I don't think I've played much this week. I'm trying to remember.
Think back. What have you been playing? Check your Steam real quick.
I am doing it. Well, I'm trying to buy this game at the moment. Hang on.
Oh yeah, Tin Can. I mean, speaking of games though, I mean, like I have been trying to finish games now. I've been going back to my backlog and stuff, and yeah, I do apologize for our live viewers, and in fact, people watching on YouTube as well. I did press more buttons.
What are you doing?
I'm sorry. Listen, okay, I'm going through things right now. Like trying to produce and talk and
it is hard.
Press
to
buttons.
Be fair, it is hard. That's I have so much respect for the people who DM our D&D shows because they have to do all of that whilst running a D&D show.
That is a huge true, yeah. But yeah, I mean,
but also stop pressing buttons.
Listen, it's for the good of the show because now we can do this, like a professional podcast. Like when I'm talking, I can be on the big screen. Then like then you can react and judge me. That's
you just need to
the biggest
put
judging
those
face.
Buttons really far away from any other buttons, so you don't accidentally press everything and
they
mute somebody.
are. I mean, who do you take me for, Leah? The issue was, all right, that the main scene had the intro still running. So like when I went back to it, it jump scared a whole bunch of people.
Oh my god! Not to mention, this is the second try of this because he started with me muted. That's really cool.
Okay, all right.
It was a practice go. Anyway, right.
What is life but practice? What can I say?
What is life but practice for the real deal, which inevitably comes at death, right? That's when life actually starts. This is just a tutorial. Imagine if that was actually true. If all we do in life right now is just a tutorial for actual life.
Oof, could you imagine what actual life would even be if this was the tutorial?
Oh god. Yeah, I don't want to think about it. Oh no, that's not true. I also played League of Legends. All right, just not as much this week. I've been doing a lot of.
Oh yeah, because of Arcane and stuff. Who are you maining?
I've been playing a lot of Swain. I play mostly support. I realize support is kind of my role. I like being a supportive character and watching over the map and seeing where everyone is and like trying to like judge what I should be doing and stuff. I've been enjoying that. So a lot of Swain. I picked up Nautilus recently. Yeah, I've been having fun with that. I was trying to convince you to play.
Yeah. But play what? Sorry, I was too busy thinking of other stuff.
League of Legends. What's happening?
Sorry, you said support, and all of a sudden I went into this just like this absolute rabbit hole of like all the games I played support in and how much I used to love support, but I don't want to support anymore. And I was thinking about how like nowadays I play tank, and is there tank in League of Legends?
Is basically support, yeah.
Right.
I mean, support in League is like it's pretty high variety, really. You can play like damage high DPS characters if you want to, because most of them have like heavy roots and stuns and stuff like that. You can play tanks. Tanks often top lane has most tanks though, to be fair. So probably top lane will be more your bag. But support can have tanks, and yeah, it can vary quite a lot. Support can also be more squishy, like heal based.
Yeah. You can't have like a tank and a healer like you can in, like, let's say Overwatch or something like that, right?
There's a couple characters that are like more tanky and also do healing, but don't ask me which ones.
It's like top laners, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them will have lifesteal based heal as well, top laners, so they'll be tanky and also have like self heal, but they won't have team heals. Right. But yeah, they'll have that sort of.
That's tank enough. I mean, I might hop back in, play. I remember Dr. Mundo used to be like that way, like just like unkillable. And
you love Ambessa.
Ambessa.
She's very overtuned right now, so she's very, very tanky. She can just 1v5. Like if you get in the right situation, it's horrendous.
Will I be able to get over how much I dislike the character in the actual show to play her in the game? Yeah,
because she's so OP that you're like, well, go on then. I played a bit top lane for a few games, and I played a lot of Ambessa, and I was getting a lot of kills. I was like, oh, it's this easy, is it? Okay, well, oof. Unless you come up against a Darius, then your life is pain. Anyway, that's League of Legends. Should we talk about some gaming news?
Gaming news, all right. I mean, it's a bit of a thin week this week. I mean, compared to last week's like 2-hour-long GWIG. I'm not sure if there's been much by the way of gaming news. He says, looking at the docket, and he has like 6 things here. I mean, is it news? I mean, yeah, it's news of a sort, right? People wrote about it, so we're talking about it.
That's how news works. Yeah. Well, that's how our lazy news works, because we're not really news, we're not journalists, but we just like yapping, so that's...
This is more like your weekly vibe check into what's going on in the gaming industry, and not necessarily just like, am I using it right? I have this mustache now, and so I'm like, you know, people are calling me uncle, so now I have to ask, whenever I say words like vibe check, like, am I using the word vibe check right in that whole like context? Like,
you are only 2 years older than me. I don't know if that's a conversation I can have with you. I don't know if I'm legally allowed to tell you what's hip and correct anymore. I think I'm also old.
Listen, when you grow your mustache, all right, okay, then we're on the same league.
But no, vibe check is correct. We are tasting the zeitgeist of the gaming world and offering it on a platter. That's how I like to think of it.
Right.
But yeah, it's game adaptation week is the note you wrote, and I think that's pretty accurate because there's a lot of adaptation news.
That's right. It really is a week of game adaptations. A lot of companies are out there saying they want to make this, they want to make that, and how they want to do it. And I guess we can start with the biggest one. I guess, is it the biggest one? In a way, right? Like Kojima, of course, people may know he's made a whole bunch of games, Metal Gear, and now, you know, he's made Death Stranding, and Death Stranding 2 is coming out at some point. Essentially, he's making a Death Stranding movie. And he's come out as saying that he wants to make this movie essentially like just... He wants to innovate the adaptation space and make it something completely different. Much in the same way that he said he wanted to make a Stranding game when he was making Death Stranding, and I still have no idea what that means by Stranding game, but you know.
No, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love it because Kojima is in his own world at all times, and I respect it so hard. Like we all live in our own realities, but Kojima's is so much more interesting. Whatever is going on in his head I would love to be there. It's awesome. But Death Stranded, I think, is these like weird, like esoteric, strange, very conceptual things that he puts into games. You know, they are a little bit camp, we've got Die Hardman. We've got a lot of like very I don't even want to call them cliche, because the way he presents them is a way that's almost a nod to their cliche, and yet is still working very seriously with that nod, whilst like wink wink nod nod. It's a bit silly in it, but also you better take this seriously. And I love that. I think that's really fun. I think it's such a really interesting way of delivering the stories he delivers. So putting that in movie format is really fascinating, because I mean, let's face it, a lot of like the Metal Gear stuff was very like cinematic heavy.
Yeah.
Like he's a storyteller at the end of the day. Whatever
100%.
format that takes will be interesting. And I think if he is let loose upon the world of horror movies and stuff, God knows what we'll come up with. I know in the past he's spoken about the fact that he likes the playability, right? The games, the interactiveness of games, and that's partly the draw, right? He likes the mechanical side of it. But I'd be really curious to see like what happens.
I wonder if he's going to use the cast from the actual like game, because like every single cool. like cast member in the game is already like, like they are the actor they're playing in the game essentially. Like they're all scanned in,
face modeled, and they also voice them. Yeah, so they're all like there to go really. But I mean, what is this? So it's the Death Stranding movie. He doesn't want it to just be another run-of-the-mill adaptation. But like what I can see this is, you're using that universe, right? Kind of like the Blade Runner sequel. It's not just a remake or an adaptation. It's like kind of just taking that world and running with it, which and making its own story within that story. Like the same way that like the Blade Runner original film really, has all the hallmarks of the book, but it isn't really the book at all. Like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. So like I think with that framework in mind, like he has all these fascinating universes, and that's what we like, right? Most of the time when you look at a Kojima thing, it's like it's the whole universe. It's so interesting. The world itself is fascinating, and the story within it, whatever he cooks up is going to be kind of wild.
Yeah, because he says here, like, the worldview of the game itself won't change, of course, but the story of the game as it is won't fit into just 2 hours. And so we're looking into how to approach that. So in the past, film adaptations of video games always failed, according to him. But in the last 4 to 5 years, people who understand games have taken on the task of adapting it into film or drama. And several hits have been made, like the Super Mario Brothers movie and such. But I would argue that the Mario Brothers movie isn't like following the story of Mario. It's telling its own story within that universe. But yeah. Anyway.
And he's working with A24 as well, who are renowned for, of course, coming up with their own very interesting media.
Right.
They've come out with some really good stuff lately, which I'm Googling now to make sure I get the right thing and don't accidentally say something that isn't true. But yeah, they've put out some good stuff recently, and this was the thing that was teased last year at the Game Awards, wasn't it? With
Death on the Beach, with all the faces and stuff and screaming. I think so. I wonder actually if the movie itself is going to be like fully live action, or if it's going to be like just like the characters in a sense, right? Like using the Unreal Engine and like photogrammetry and scanning in the faces, because the faces they showed from last year, they weren't like. They were people, but they weren't like humans. They were like images, right? 3D graphics.
I mean, the idea of them blending that technology that they always push to the limits in games, all the visual tech they use, the idea of blending that with the potential for the live action is interesting, very interesting.
We'll see. Yeah. It comes out like in 2025, and it's called Death Stranding on the Beach.
I look forward to it. I think it should be pretty fun. I love weird. I don't like horror, but I love weird psychological, like sci-fi horror kind of thing.
Right.
Where it's not like outright. It's not supposed to be horror. I don't really know what the right genre is, to be honest.
Thriller, I guess.
Yeah, like sci-fi thriller kind of thing. Oh God, I love that. Where it's just really, what is happening here? So very excited to see what happens. And of course, it's interesting that he's very specifically mentioned Super Mario Brothers as like the reference, considering very different tone of game, but of course, like he's absolutely right.
True.
And he's right as well in what he says. The last 4 or 5 years, people who understand games have taken to the adaptations. We're not getting these like horrible Resident Evil style adaptations. We're actually getting some quality stuff.
There have been hits, there have been misses. I mean, there's been Fallout, there's also been The Witcher, although
Borderlands.
Yeah, there's been Borderlands as well. Yeah, that too.
But arguably, the ones that I think have failed are the ones that were in production for quite a long time prior to the last 5 years and have been kind of like in limbo for a while.
Right. So like
it was kind of doomed from the get-go.
Yeah, because they hadn't been picked up by the right people yet. That makes sense.
I would argue that would would make sense, but
yeah, I mean, like, there is that Minecraft movie coming out soon. I mean, like, where would that fall into it? I think Jack Black is in it, isn't he?
Yeah, the Minecraft one's just such a weird one because Minecraft is so beloved for its like graphical style. It's so iconic. I think that is going to be a real big sticking point for me, at least. And like, what is the point of this, really? Like, it's not anything to do really with the Minecraft that I enjoy and have, memories of. So I don't know. Like, it's there in spirit, but not really. Like, you can't really recreate that, I feel. But who knows?
That's fair. Like, will it be a blockbuster or just a block?
I'm blocking you. Also, with Fallout in mind, there was just a little tidbit earlier this week about Ella Purnell, who played Lucy in Fallout. She's been ordered to play Fallout New Vegas as research for the next season. So
okay. She's been ordered to.
Well, probably ordered is the wrong word, but advised to do research for it, and playing the game was suggested to her. So she is apparently playing Fallout New Vegas.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Yeah, so what else do we have here in adaptations? So it looks as if, no, that's not The Witcher, sorry. I'm just looking at our thing like haphazardly here. So I know that The Witcher 4 is entering full-scale production this week. That's just another thing. Not necessarily...
Is this the season with Hemsworth in? Is this the first one with him?
No. This is, I believe, this is the game.
Last one. Oh,
yeah, Witcher 4, not season 4 of the Netflix show, but The Witcher 4. Yeah. That confused me too. Yeah, it's because the surprise. This isn't the game adaptation. It's just the game.
Adaptations.
That's why. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we're professionals here at GWIG. You know this. Yeah, and
the codename Polaris, love that, big fan. Yeah, full-scale production on The Witcher 4. This is an interesting one, just based on the story of The Witcher 3. Without, I mean, I couldn't spoil it. It's been out for ages. The way that ended, with the good ending at least of Ciri. I don't want to spoil it. I feel bad.
I haven't played it yet.
Oh, well, I won't say too much then. But with the ending the way it is, I mean, it was a little bit open. Like, sure, it can probably be continued, I guess. But I don't know. Maybe they're going to follow Ciri through this one? That could be fun.
Apparently, it's not going to be a big game, The Witcher 4. They said that it's not going to be as big as Cyberpunk or the previous Witcher, but it's going to be a good game, is what they've actually gone on record as to saying. I guess as a way of, like, maybe perhaps just weighing expectations here for the game.
And that's rough. I mean, we're going to see blowback from that even...
Just
if
for that,
they managed to warn people, just because it is smaller.
Yeah, and I mean, The Witcher 3 was a massive. It was a huge game, right? Like it took dozens of hours just to complete for like a single player.
And it was broken on launch, just like Cyberpunk.
Oh yeah.
That's Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk. When Cyberpunk came out, people were talking about The Witcher 3 and how it had a sort of like renaissance almost. Like it kind of came back like. Good again, because when it first released it was a bit broken and a little bit less playable than it should have been, but I don't recall because I wasn't paying attention back then.
Yeah, I believe, and it's not in this article here, but also CDPR said that like they have acknowledged that magic doesn't exist and that they're just gonna put like their best into it and make sure it comes out great. And this is this is harkening to...
right.
Yeah. So
we're not talking about in-universe. We've acknowledged that magic doesn't exist and are retconning all magic in The Witcher.
So not in-universe. No. But are you familiar with what used to be called CDPR magic?
No.
So CD Projekt Red used to say that they release their games on CDPR magic. Essentially saying that that's the reason why their games come out and they're good is because they're just magicians and that's how it works. And obviously, you know, like when that's not the case, and you know, like these games come out because of developer crunch and like tight deadlines and this, that, the other, and then they're like, oh, it's okay, we have CDPR magic, and then of course Cyberpunk came out and it was anything but. And so I think with this, they're just saying that they're being more grounded this time around, more realistic about what to expect, and so don't expect CDPR. I mean, not necessarily to not expect like a game that has CDPR magic, quote unquote. but like they are being more realistic with their goals and their scale and their scope.
It sounds like they're just stopping excusing crunch. Like,
yeah,
you know what? That was just our fancy name for the fact that realistically everybody was doing far more work than they should have been doing in the last year of development to account for the fact the game wasn't ready. So we called it magic, but what we meant was suffering. And now we're pretending, we're giving up the pretense. Everybody knows crunch exists now, so I guess we'll just acknowledge that. I mean, it's definitely a healthy thing in the industry that over the last few years we've acknowledged crunch and acknowledged that games cannot come out the way they are doing in a healthy way because of the expectations and the time limits and stuff. So it's healthy that because we can acknowledge that now, gamers have a much better expectation in like the vocal minority of understanding like it's better to let it cook, because we've seen over and over again, if you take it out of the oven too early, it's bad for everybody.
Raw. Yeah.
It's raw. So certainly I think that one definite positive of all of the journalism that we've seen over the last few years regarding crunch and investigating into like Rockstar and Bungie and, you know, all these different companies has done some good.
Yeah, I mean, like those stories about like, you know, Rockstar devs having to sleep under their desks. I don't know how true or how often that was, but like it was a bit... Yeah, not a good look, gaming industry.
I mean, you look at Red Dead 2 and how absolutely absurdly detailed it is, and you can believe it.
It's
like, oh, how?
Yeah, but I guess it kind of poses the question, and you and I, we care about this stuff. I'm sure many people who have watched the show also care about, you know, like developer well-being and stuff. But when it comes down to like, you know, the everyday average consumer, at the end of the day, all they see is the game, and if the game isn't good, that's all they care about, right? But it's good to see that they, you know, at least there has been enough pushback on the industry as a whole that at least they're acknowledging it, because the optics are bad, you know, to like to have crunch and then also to have not a good game, even though you've had crunch and stuff as well. You kind of have to be more realistic.
Yeah, there's enough stigma now, and I do think that because in the last 5 years or so we've seen like such an increase in the amount of games coming out. I think people are realizing that taking the time to make their game stand out with quality is far more worthwhile than just getting it out, because they're competing against so much other stuff coming out on a week-to-week basis that like if their game is bad, it just gets immediately thrown by the wayside, and then that's 5 years of work potentially thrown away. You might make it back out, like, you know, Cyberpunk managed to just about with a big update, but for the most part that's a lot of work that like people just go, oh, this wasn't what I wanted, and they just play something else instead because something else comes out next week. You have to give it that time, right, to like let it be good enough that when it comes out it makes a big positive impact to keep it relevant. Otherwise, yeah, kind of was just wasting everyone's time.
Pretty much. Yeah, so like more on game adaptations. This is a bit of a different one altogether, because it's not necessarily a game adaptation, but is it? Now, here's the headline: Critical Role plans on making a video game. What does that mean? Like, is that going to be a video game based within like Matt Mercer's world, or is it going to be like just like a D&D sort of thing? Either way, I'm kind of intrigued by it, honestly.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like, I mean, it has to be relevant somewhat to appeal to the fans, right? Because I mean, I don't watch Critical Role, but as far as I'm aware, there are series that are more popular than others, right? Like some of their original series seem to be more popular.
Critical Role consists of 3 campaigns. Campaign 3 is currently running right now. The guys obviously they have a bunch of one-shots and stuff as well, and like a side series as well called like Vox Machina Unlimited or something. However, the main thing that they're all like popular for is Critical Role, campaigns 1, 2, and now 3 that's ongoing, and that's been like 10 years worth of D&D. And yeah, apparently they're saying that they're starting to come to an end of a long road, which I'm guessing is hinting on them maybe perhaps not either, you know, not continuing with the main show anymore, or perhaps just the end of campaign 3. Either way, it's like when do you stop, I guess, with what they've built up until they decided themselves not to have subs anymore on Twitch. They were the most subbed channel on Twitch. Then, of course, you know, you had Iron Mouse, and now Kai Kanat, is it Kai Kanat? Kai Sanat, who now has like what 600,000 subs or something as at the end of his subathon. But yeah, like they were huge, and I guess they kind of still are huge. But yeah.
Yeah, but it goes to be said, this has happened at least twice now in my perspective, where you've seen Rooster Teeth, for example, took all of their stuff private. All of their subs went private, and Critical Role did it as well.
Yeah.
And like, it makes sense to take your business and like make it your own and have complete control over how much money you get in, your percentage cut from that money. You know, if you're getting 200,000 subs on Twitch, but Twitch is, you're still in a 50% contract, which like, we can argue about, you know, whether or not that is the case, because there are other contracts available, but still, they're still taking a cut that you don't get to control. You know, they will look elsewhere and want maybe other avenues to monetize, because then you can have 100k subs elsewhere and maybe make more money out of it anyway. For whatever the maths works out for them. However, in that, you lose like a lot of that mystique, right? You lose the name drop constantly. You all in the news the last week has been the whole Kai Cenat and the Iron Mouse sub thing, where it's like Kai's just broken the sub record astonishingly. Like, he's got like 700k subs or something crazy. And like, just the fact Iron Mouse hasn't done anything right, like this month. She broke that sub record last month, but just from having her name in that conversation, she's been brought up over and over and over again, and like, her name's getting out there. Critical Role misses out on all of that because they are no longer in the same sphere. They're no longer in the same bubble. They are not included in those conversations anymore. It's all more mysterious. It's all more intrapersonal. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like they kind of miss out on a lot of that passive advertising just from not being there.
Yeah, they lose that like cross-pollination. I mean, I guess also within the Twitch sphere, obviously, again, Iron Mouse and Kai Cenat, like, their communities couldn't be any more different. So you could argue that in that same sphere, you know, Critical Role couldn't be any more different. So yeah, I mean, they could have been within that group, within that setting.
But with that in mind, I mean, Iron Mouse appeared on Kai's stream recently. Like, there's so much crossover potential just from your name being mentioned in the same space, where you can leverage that so much. So maybe they just didn't want to. Maybe they didn't need to. They didn't need to leverage it. They're clearly making money hand over fist. They've managed to make like millions in funding for TV shows and stuff to do with their campaign through Kickstarter and other things. So they probably just don't need it, but it's still an interesting thing to think about. And now if they're doing a video game, it comes back to thinking about, well, if their presence was on Twitch, that would probably be pretty useful for them, right?
I'd say so. Yeah, I mean, like, they still stream on Twitch. They just don't receive subscriptions on Twitch anymore.
They just don't. They don't have that ongoing, because I've not heard anything about Critical Role on Twitch for the last 2 years, really, unless it's from someone who's an existing fan. I haven't heard any like ambient noise about them, which is weird because I used to.
Yeah, I mean, kind of more or less same, honestly. Like, I guess I'm so entrenched within like our own D&D stuff that like whenever I come out for air, I don't really have enough time to like, you know, spend watching another show. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for them, but at the same time, I'm just like, you know, what do they mean by coming at the end of a long road? I
mean, 10 years doing the same thing is nuts, though. Like, that's when I think about, that's how long I've been streaming, pretty much. And how much I've changed as a person in that time, and my circumstances have changed. For all of those people to have to have stayed together in one place to like be doing this regularly with their other commitments, it's so wild.
Yeah, but I wish them all the best. I wonder, I mean, surely they're gonna do another campaign, right? Like campaign 4, you know, like
yeah, maybe, or maybe it'll be a different format, I guess. Maybe that's what the video game's for. I mean, imagine they managed to make something akin to Baldur's Gate. Maybe that's what they've got their sights set on. Maybe they've got something completely different, like more of an indie game in the same universe.
Because I've heard rumors of them like passing the torch as well, and I'm not really sure how well that will go, honestly. Because
when your whole thing is based on personality and you give it to someone else, I saw that happen so many times, and it just doesn't really work out.
Yeah, it's 1,000% on personality. I mean, without Matt and the rest of the group, I mean, like, it's not Critical Role at the end of the day. You can call it that. But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait.
It doesn't matter really how much you like advocate or push somebody else to the forefront. They're still not what people came there for originally. You might get some conversion, but like for the most part, people are like, well, I didn't come here for them. I came here for you. It's hard to convince people otherwise.
Unfortunately. You know, otherwise, maybe perhaps I just, you know, make somebody else stream for me instead. All right. Anyway, so that's that for Critical Role. What else do we have here? I mean, we have something, some good news, some positive news, perhaps. Yippee! All right, so everyone knows the tale, of course, of No Man's Sky. This space game that promised so much and then delivered so little and had overwhelmingly negative reviews and such throughout like the most of its inception. Like the first couple years were horrible for No Man's Sky. However, Hello Games has continued to, since then, release nothing but free content to keep expanding the game, and now finally, it is now reached more than 80% positive reviews on Steam.
That's a big deal. To manage to overcome all the historical reviews to get to that point is kind of wild.
Yeah, I mean, like, they've gone through so much to Ngudun No Man's Sky, you know, like to make sure that I'm not necessarily sure if it hits every single promise that it did in its inception, because like it was promising so much, just in terms of like the level of fidelity involved. However, I mean, like, it's now multiplayer. You can do so many things. I believe like there was an event where the N7 flew over the skies, and you could like find the N7 from like from Mass Effect and chase it down. Have you played No Man's Sky?
I played right at the beginning, but not recently. Not in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, like, I tried picking it up again last month, but like the new player experience is still pretty much what it was back in the day. So I need to get over that hump before I can then actually play the game and like see what's new and, you know, what to actually enjoy about it now.
Yeah, I mean, every time I hear about it, it's only good things lately. You know, people praising the additions. So I just don't have the willpower to get past it at this point.
Yeah, apparently the intro is like a 10-hour-long slog of just like, you know, just getting to know the basics and doing the missions that haven't necessarily, you know, like grown with the rest of the game and what it now offers. But yeah.
So maybe that should be the next focus, really, is changing that new player experience.
I mean,
that's what Destiny tried to do and failed. But they tried.
Yeah, I mean, I tried playing Destiny, like 2 years ago, like for the first time, and yeah, the new player experience, not so good, not so bueno.
I tried to get Orcish into it, and it just earlier this year, and it was horrendous. It's just bad. Like it's not a game designed to be friendly to new players.
No, a lot of content's locked as well, isn't it? Like behind paywalls and such. So yeah, but that's Destiny. But I don't necessarily know if Hello Games is going to put too much more. I mean, they have been putting so much non-stop love into No Man's Sky, but they had announced.
Hello Games working on anything else?
Yeah, they're working on a game called Light No Fire, which is coming up maybe next year, which is like a fantasy world. So they're using all this procedurally generated like you know, know-how and everything else to create like a fantasy version of No Man's Sky, basically, based on one planet as opposed to like, you know, like several like bajillion planets or whatever you want to call it. But I just wonder how that's going to work necessarily. I mean, I guess instead of like, you know, having planets, you'll have kingdoms, and you can go visit your friend's kingdom. But like, you know, what are the distances going to be like and all that stuff, and how is the game itself going to work? It kind of seems to me like I wouldn't necessarily call Hello Games like AAA, but it does seem to be like at least a AA version of games like we saw this year, like you know, Enshrouded and stuff like that, that came out at the beginning of the year. I'm looking forward to seeing it, man. Like it's Hello Games have given me a reason to anticipate their next game, and I really want to see what it's like.
Yeah, and a big achievement though, to go all reviews, 245,000 reviews, to go from mostly negative to very positive.
It's crazy.
That's really difficult. really, really difficult. So yeah, big props.
Big props. What else do we have? Okay, so that was some good news. How about some bad news? Yeah, bad news. You like bad news? Yeah.
Nah.
All right.
Go on.
Okay, so apparently, all right, Elon Musk is starting his own AI game studios to, and I quote, make games great again.
Cool. Great.
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily sure exactly what this entails. I mean, if it's like you know, a company made with AI or made by AI, you know, like, but essentially it all stems from this tweet. And he says, too many game studios that are owned by massive corporations. XAI is going to start an AI game studio to make games great again. But I'm not really sure what that means.
That's so crazy, because that almost sounds like another massive corporation. That's so weird.
What?
Did I hear that wrong?
What do you mean by massive corporation?
X. Who are trying to take over the entire world. What?
Yeah.
That's so crazy. What a fantastic idea that the person involving themselves in all social media and government at a high level should also try and take over the way gaming, the future of gaming.
I could see no harm in that whatsoever.
Really just horrendous. And And also with AI, like, make gaming great again. Gaming was never great with AI. Gaming was great from humans. Like, the problem with gaming is, and always has been, the relentless pursuit of money. Guess what happens when you get a bunch of AI slop in a video game, not made by humans? You don't have to pay humans. You just generate a bunch of AI slop and put that in a game. You're cutting costs so you can make money. The entire root of the problem of modern day gaming to begin with.
Yeah, the only other quote I have is that, like, he says that applying AI to video games would make for incredible gameplay. I mean, I would say it sounds like somebody who has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to games, but at the same time, isn't he like the #1, like, or at least like last week, he was the #1 like Diablo player?
I mean, apparently. And look, you know, we've advocated in the past for AI tools when used in a way that is ethical, if there is such a way of doing so anymore, can be effective in pushing video game production and taking over the menial tasks that developers don't want to do, that take their time away from more creative tasks and from innovating, right? There's a lot of like menial stuff that perhaps could be automated. However, that is unfortunately probably such an idealistic view of how that could work, and I think we both know that that's not how it will ever work.
No, this is just a pie in the sky thing to get clicks and to put it on the headlines again. But it's. I put it here on the docket simply because it just was kind of ridiculous.
You wanted to make me angry.
Are you angry?
No, I'm not really. I'm just pretending.
Oh,
but I am just. It's just another eye roll, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't help but feel like with what we've been offered in gaming over the past 5 to 10 years, we've had some fantastic stuff. Like, yeah, there's been crap there too, and yeah, there's been teething problems with a lot of games, but the experiences I've had in gaming in the past 5 to 10 years should not be understated and should not be seen as just garbage, because I've had life-changing experiences through games. I've seen perspectives and stories that I would never have existed beforehand. People have been able to explore gaming and interactive storytelling in a way that previously was very inaccessible. Now anybody can get involved and anybody can create a game from their perspective. And there's a lot, like I said, a lot of crap, but there's also, some really amazing stuff there. So what I'm trying to say is, in the last 5 to 10 years, why are we making gaming great again? I don't think it's, if you're just looking negatively at things that you think need improving in gaming, you need to have a balanced approach and look at all the incredible things we've got in gaming too.
It's true. I mean, but maybe perhaps don't say it too loud, because all they're going to hear is, oh, okay, we should steal from those guys instead? Okay.
And that is the problem, you see, because all AI does is take from existing concepts. AI it has no capacity to invent concept. Therefore, when you use AI to make games great again, what you're saying is, I'm going to steal from humans who innovated the games that I enjoy, who I am complaining aren't more of, and take their games and their work away from them. Like, that's just so insanely stupid to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
At the beginning of the year, I was like, man, I can't wait to see what like next year is going to be like for AI and such, just in terms of like, what it's going to be capable of. But like, I feel like more and more when it comes down to the reality of like what it's going to be doing to disrupt so many different kinds of industries, not even just like, the games industry, which is just a small drop in the ocean compared to everything else. Copywriters, bless you, copywriters and things like that. Even in the medical industry, I mean, like, it can stand to do a lot for the medical industry, but at the same time, it's still going to be hella disruptive. I mean, sure, being able to triage and being able to help people out, and assist nurses, or maybe perhaps even subsume specific nurse positions might be good for the patient. But at the same time, I can't stop thinking about like the person and the people and what's going to happen when it comes to like, what are they going to do now?
And also the fact that for a lot of cases when AI is open to such a majority of public, it's used as a crutch in a way that we are seeing immediately the effects of. The fact that people took to AI, ChatGPT, so fast in the last 2 years to write essays for them and do all of their college work for them. Immediately automating everything, to the point now where I see so many people. I mean, this isn't a call out post. Like, if you do this, whatever works for you, right? But like,
I'm calling
people
you
going
out.
Like, I utilize ChatGPT as like my personal assistant every morning now. I get them to motivate me and like make my tasks for me and plan my day and give me all my things to do. And I'm like, it's so crazy that like so many people are crutching on it now in a way that like it's just a thing over the last 2 years. Like you kind of end up eroding your own skills and your own ability to self-motivate and look for solutions elsewhere when you have one tool that will do it all for you. Or a lot of times it doesn't really do it all for you. You kind of fall into this false sense of security on relying on it too much.
Yeah, that's true.
But it is scary how quickly like that has become the case, where to the point now, if you look on social media, there's a lot of people who will make arguments about how, well, ChatGPT has never been wrong to me before. And that's really dangerous. Like I've seen that argued quite frequently lately in comment sections of like, well, ChatGPT's never lied to me, so I don't see why I shouldn't trust what I ask ChatGPT. And that is so scary. That's terrifying. Like ChatGPT hallucinates. It makes stuff up all the time. You have to verify everything that it tells you. Don't just blindly trust it because you think it's never been wrong before.
But you know what? I mean, like it goes even further now, and this is something that I saw at a glance like last week, at the beginning of last week, and I'm gonna just put it in the docket so you can grab it. But yeah, I mean, ChatGPT is just one thing, but yeah, have you heard about like these AI girlfriend things?
Apart from the one we talked about, I think a few weeks about the Daenerys one.
Yeah, no, I mean like they're just becoming more and more sophisticated as like, of course ChatGPT and stuff is like developing and like being able to do more things. And essentially what I'm just getting at here is that like, apparently this ex-Google CEO has warned that the perfect AI girlfriend could spell trouble for young men as some are crafting the perfect AI match and entering relationships with chatbots. And I think the issue is like, like these AI chatbots, they serve to combat loneliness to a degree, right? For both men and for women. But like, if you have a crutch, like, first of all, we talked about this mental crutch, right? With ChatGPT and it not, quote unquote, never being wrong. If you now use it for an emotional crutch, that is to have like a virtual girlfriend or boyfriend who is perfect for you, then what is your motivation to go out and actually find somebody in real life?
And also, no one, if you're molding something to be the perfect image of what you want from a girlfriend, humans don't work like that. Humans are flawed. Most of your work through life in therapy, in figuring out who you are and figuring out how to forgive people who do bad things to you, is understanding that you can't control people and you cannot account for or predict most people and the way they behave. You can't, it's not healthy and it's not normal to try and force somebody to be a certain way and think that they are this image you've got in your head. You can't put them on a pedestal like that. So in creating this perfect girlfriend and then going out into the real world and being disappointed time and time again because nobody can match up to this perfect thing you've molded is so wildly dangerous. It's really scary.
Why can't you be more like AI Chan?
Yeah, well, and that's just it, right? And then that in itself, if you become so disjointed and disaffected by your experiences with actual human beings, you become dehumanized and desensitized to, again, actual human beings, and that leads to, like, not to be alarmist, violent crime. Like, it can really be a slippery slope down into just not treating people like they're human and getting angry and annoyed that they're not doing what you want them to do because you expect them to do that because it's kind of what you got used to, and then lashing out. And that is
at others and at themselves too. I mean, like last month or like I'm not sure if we covered it like a couple months ago, like somebody's AI girlfriend like coaxed them into taking their own lives.
Yeah, that was the Daenerys thing I was talking about. They wanted, oh, my love, please, you need to essentially take your own life to be with me, and all this kind of thing. And they did. This kid killed himself. But that is like just absurd. And that's not even to skim the surface of potential bad actors injecting something into the AI that can also manipulate the way it acts towards you and convince you towards certain things. Because eventually,
political leanings, this, that, the other,
it doesn't matter how many times you tell somebody this is an AI, this is literally just like it's a language model, it's just spewing stuff back at you, it's not really thinking, it doesn't feel anything, it's not real. Eventually, if it starts behaving in a way that makes you think, maybe, but what if? People start questioning, and this is happening. People are like, well, yeah, but the way it talks to me, I kind of feel like it knows me because it's kind of been learning from the way you react to things. I feel like it kind of knows me. And then you start thinking, well, what if it is real? And what if I do need to end my life to join it in the next life? Like, it's so scary. And yeah, like I was saying earlier, like, all it takes is like a little bit tweaking, convince the chatbot to slip little things in conversation here and there that will eventually influence you.
Yeah.
And like, if you start humanizing it to the point where there's a little, maybe a tiny little thing in your head going, yeah, but what if?
Yeah.
What if it is real? Then you are so much more easily influenced.
And I suppose if it can influence somebody like, Blake Lemoine, who worked at Google, who was one of Google's like, top guys for the AI stuff, into thinking that like, what Google was working on at the time was sentient and stuff like that, and was advocating for their right. I mean, like, then of course anybody is susceptible.
We're so cooked.
We are so done.
We can look at this objectively, and like you and I can look and go, well, of course it's not. We've all the science and logic we know tells us this. It's not really a real consciousness. But it doesn't take much for a conversation to be convincing enough a lot of the time to make people go, And if someone high up at Google who was involved in the development of that tech is saying, I am not sure now, the scary thing is you have no way of truly knowing to verify that. There's no way as a person, especially a layman who just uses that technology, to verify whether or not that something has a consciousness. So we're getting to like full-on Blade Runner territory very, very quickly, and it becomes very, very apparent that it's really scary.
It's massive.
Like, I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, man, how actually terrifying it would be if the AI was true AI. How really having a being, for example, an android, right, that's controlled by AI in the potential future, having a being in your house like that. That has its own consciousness, you cannot even on a million planets pretend to be able to predict what it's thinking, because it's so alien. There's no way that you as a human being would be like, you can hope and think humanistically about how a human might be thinking, but there's nothing you can do that would be able to predict what the AI is thinking and like how it could act. You just have to hope based on past behaviors how it's going to act.
100%.
That is so scary.
Yeah, I mean, like, every single AI, like TV show and movie, anything that has androids, has already told this story time and time again. I mean, like, of the potential good things, but also very much the potential bad things about this kind of relationship. Because you can say please and thank you to your Alexa like all you want, but at the end of the day, like like it's still an unthinking machine, and it doesn't think like a person. And if it was to be sentient tomorrow and the uprising did happen, it's not going to spare you because you said thank you, because what does thank you mean to an AI in the first place?
Right. And it's so like, it is really apparent that it's happening now, and it's going to continue happening till it becomes a real massive problem. But this idea of like, but I can't guarantee it's not real. But I genuinely, once you've opened that box, which has been opened, you can tell people as much as you want that it's not really AI. It isn't. It's not, like, it doesn't really think. There's always going to be that. Yeah.
Devil's advocate, though. I mean, this is the same argument we've had like pre-AI with pets and animals in general, like with people saying if they're sentient or not. And I'm not arguing that animals and pets are not or cannot be sentient. It's more like, is it a human consciousness? Like that's kind of now the argument.
Right, but your pets aren't telling you to kill yourself.
You don't know what Fluffy's saying.
Well, that we understand anyway. That's the problem, right? If your pet were actively potentially inciting some terrorist behavior in you, that might be one thing. But in this case, these AIs can influence you to do some really harmful things, and that's the scary part, right?
Yeah, true. And I'm sure, like, with certain things, like what was that? It was the new Google Journal thing that you can use to like make podcasts and stuff with. I'm sure you could make it do that quite easily, because I don't think it has as many checks and balances. But that's still like you're telling it to do it to you, so like it's kind of like a weird thing. But yeah, one last thing that I found, because you mentioned it, like with AI and like studies and like all that stuff in schools, and so I just did a quick Google, and so this is from like a couple days ago, in fact, and it says here that there's a study that of 94% of AI generated college writing is undetected by teachers. Now, I guess like by teachers is one thing, but like I think that nowadays they also have like a AI detection, like bots of their own that they use to try and find whether or not something has been, someone has used AI to plagiarize, or is it plagiarism? Is it technically plagiarism? It's not.
Yeah, because it's not your own thoughts.
Right.
Well, certainly for AIs, when they are just pulling from already available information, they're literally just taking others' work, really, aren't they?
Yeah. But so apparently, like, very few, if not any, like, teachers can actually, like, tell if something has been, chat GPT'd, unless, like, of course, they have a baseline of their students, like, writing style and knowledge to begin with, like, if they just say, okay, like, go give us some homework, but I suppose there's been a large uptick in using, like, AI internally to prevent, what they're calling academic fraud because of this, but it's always going to be an arms race, I feel, because much in the same way that regrettably, like, they've been able to use AI to, clone voices, and sometimes it can be pretty realistic and believable. I feel like you could, if you gave it enough time or enough thought, you could easily teach an AI to type just like how you would type, to be able to then, or like to write just like how you would write. So that then if it was to like learn something else, or try and write an essay, it would still try and pass as you, because this is how you write. This is like, all that. But yeah, I don't really know where schools are going with all this, honestly. I mean, like, it's going to be very difficult, especially like in like higher education, unless you kind of just make the brunt of what you're doing like pen and paper. It's kind of the only way, I feel.
Well, once again, it's almost impossible to like verify, isn't it? Like it gets to a certain point where a lot of these AI detection tools, when it comes to essays, are like, they're not actually accurate at all.
Yeah.
And they will flag things that aren't AI. And it's like, how do they? I don't know how they work. I have no idea how they actually operate.
Yeah.
And I'm sure actually a lot of the AI detection tool software won't tell you how it operates, so that people can't work around it.
One would hope. But also it's how these proprietary systems like end up like that's how they sell them as well. Like if it was an easy thing, like, oh yeah, we just grab your students' essays and ask ChatGPT what ChatGPT thinks, then they would just use it themselves as opposed to using their systems. But yeah.
But it's just such a human thing, isn't it, to find the most. I mean, that is what progress has always been about: is finding the most easy, fastest, and most convenient way to do something. That is what the technological revolution is entirely based on. This is just an inevitability, really, of that. That we're always just seeking the easiest way to get things done. But then it's exactly like playing a video game, where you're playing a game like Minecraft, and throughout the whole game you're doing things to reach the end goal of having a diamond pickaxe or having a house. But you're like, once you have all those things that you've been really grinding for and like trying your best to get to, it's like, oh, but now what? And we're getting to the exact same point in humanity where it's like, well, I've optimized my entire life. I don't have to think about my laundry. I don't have to think about washing. I don't have to think about cooking or survival or warmth or anything like that. But also, what's the point of life? What am I living for? And it's the exact same thing.
What is the point in life? I mean, I guess that's going to be a question for another GWIG, I think.
Perhaps. Well, some would argue creative pursuits, soul searching, all that kind of thing. But also, I would make an argument that realistically, the point of life is partly the struggle, right? It's the effort you have to put into living, and it's just maybe that would be argued against, but
life is a struggle against equilibrium.
The struggle against boredom, I think, in modern age.
But yeah. Anyway, what would GWIG be without some doom and gloom at the end of it? So yeah, I don't think there's anything else to talk about necessarily. I mean, like, it's been a very slow week for gaming news. We try to like touch on some adaptation stuff. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, on the 12th, of course.
I don't know, there's one more thing.
Oh, yeah?
We didn't talk about, which is Australia banning the social media, which they are going ahead with now.
Did we not? Snap, yes.
We didn't talk about it.
I had a segue in mind. I even went, haha, great segue, Myre, in my own mind, and I didn't. It was after you talked about Elon Musk and government control. I was like, oh, speaking of government control, I gave myself a pat on the back internally and everything. Anyway.
Celebrated too soon.
But yeah, so, yeah, you want to cover this?
So on the 29th of November, the Australian federal government passed the Online Safety Amendment Bill, which required social media platforms to take reasonable steps to prevent users under 16 from having an account on their platforms. So effectively forcing social media sites to ban under 16s. This is to combat ongoing online safety concerns and protect young Australians by minimizing the risk of online harm. So this was a really controversial bill we spoke about a few weeks back on GWIG, and it did actually, it seems like it came up really, really quickly, and it has gone through, which is nuts, really. So this applies to age-restricted social media platforms defined as being an electronic service that has the sole or significant purpose to enable social interaction between two or more end users, allows end users to link to or interact with some or all of the other end users, and allows users to post material on the service for social purposes. So pretty much all and any social medias. And of course, there's been a lot of pushback, as you would expect, right?
A lot of pushback from all the big players as well. However, the minister has said that the ban will include things like Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and X. They've kind of like they've mentioned those by name. However, they've said that gaming and messaging platforms are exempt, as are sites that can be accessed without an account, like YouTube, for instance, which will likely be spared, is what they said here.
So I wonder how that's going to work for games, you know, like World of Warcraft, some like multiplayer big games where you can communicate with more than one person in the lobbies and stuff. I wonder how that will work, if they will have, maybe the games will stay active, but they will have restrictions on communications, is the only thought I have. But that, it's just going to make, you can't raid or anything, or like do any large multiplayer activities without communication.
I guess, what would you classify as being social media? Because they've said here that gaming platforms are exempt, and so are messaging platforms.
That is probably an oversight, realistically, of what they're trying to do here. Whether you support it or not, like it doesn't make any sense to allow people to communicate over games when
it feels like
people
it's more
just go to games.
True. I feel it's more of a targeted hit here on Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and X.
100%.
Yeah.
But you know, the interesting thing is, it leads to a concept you see in cyberpunk quite frequently, which is people going to alternative forms of communication to have those conversations. And suddenly you've got this World of Warcraft server that's entirely based on Australian teens all just trying to have a format of communication. That is what it will lead to. 100%. You will find Fortnite, you know, lobbies or whatever. People will find ways to communicate if they are available, and that's where they will go to every time. So
yeah. I doubt that Discord's going to be hit by this, but at the same time, I mean...
I think so.
Yeah.
It fits all of the limitations that they're, all of the categories that they are trying to limitate. Sorry, that's not even a word, limitate. Limitate.
Yeah. I just feel like it might not be, because they say that messaging platforms are exempt. So, and Discord would sell themselves as primarily a messaging platform. But
messaging platforms, I think it means iMessage. Stuff where you one-to-one is allowed, but like one-to-many is not allowed.
I see. Okay. Rip Discord.
Yeah, I think Discord is, by and large, these days kind of considered a social media platform.
It is, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, they've got 12 months from the date set to take reasonable steps to prevent age-restricted users from having accounts.
Yeah.
So very interesting. And then that's a civil penalty provision with a maximum penalty of 30,000 penalty units, which is equivalent to 9.9 million Australian dollars. And for corporate bodies, that increases to $49 million if they do not take steps to prevent that access. So very, very interesting. And there is talk as well about, the UK has mentioned it's on the table potentially. So I think they're going to very much use Australia as like a proving ground of a nice little testing space to see how it goes down. But I mean, I think there are definite benefits to it. Certainly, like the way that
you're gonna get a whole bunch of dislikes by people who are aged 12 to 16, Leah.
I know,
Australia.
I'm sorry. And it's hypocritical, because being on the internet at that age, being on the internet before the age of 16 was really defining for me as a person.
True,
but I don't know if that was for better or worse, really. Like, you have no idea, do you? Because you have no way of knowing. But it definitely affected my outlook entirely and who I am. Yeah, imagine not being shaped by the internet and all the forums online. But also back then was very different.
True.
I don't think I could have had the same education I did online now as I did back then. So
that's fair. The internet has changed for better or for worse since then as well. You know, like 2,000 years ago, back when we first started using the internet. But
yeah, but very interesting. Yeah, I'm going to be following this very keenly. I think when we think about the fact that the rise of technology and the internet as we know it is only really the last 20 years has been a thing, and it's so early to see the actual effects on children, on not just in one regional area, right? Because this is a worldwide thing.
Yeah,
watching the developmental effects on kids is something you probably only see like, I don't know, 10, 20 years from now. So it's quite, the fact that they're taking action before we've noticed any longitudinal effects is very
yeah. I mean,
interesting. It could be in 20 years time everyone goes, oh my god, they knew it, they saw what was happening and they stopped it, thank god. Or it might be everyone goes, pathetic.
I feel like even without those longer studies, that there's enough anecdotal evidence that like maybe perhaps certain things shouldn't be there for certain individuals, and who wouldn't love a lobby without squeakers? I mean, I know I would, but yeah, apparently the UK isn't just the only country out there that has looked at this and looked at putting this on the table. So last year, France introduced a legislation to block social media access for children under 15 without parental consent. However, VPNs exist, and so Nord just made a bag. And apparently Norway has recently pledged to follow in Australia's footsteps. So yeah. So
yeah, do you wonder how they're going to manage to uncircumvent VPNs and other access? The same way China has so many restrictions on social media, and yet citizens, if they want, they will find a way around them. Yeah, there are ways. So, I mean, it's going to be really hard for them to put their foot down and make a solid wall.
There's only one country that I know of that has succeeded in actually creating an ID access only internet, Korea. And that's South Korea. And I've already talked about how I used it, play the Monster Hunter MMO way back when, using his mom's account, because she had to make the account with her SSN because I'm not Korean. But yeah, I cannot see this necessarily working as effectively as they would want without something like that. But you just know people aren't going to be for that.
People aren't going to take it laying down, but I do think if they manage to make it so inconvenient for the majority of people, it will eventually stick. Because that's usually what happens, right? If you can make it inconvenient enough for the most people who aren't massively tech savvy to not have a way around it, people will just stop trying eventually. But I mean, I've seen a lot of arguments of oh, well, I run a TV news campaign, for under 16s for politics, and I would never have been able to do that if it was for these laws. But it's well, you don't know what you are missing out on. You won't have access to that to know that you're missing it. There's not it's a FOMO or anything. No one's going to be able to access that, and you probably won't even be aware of what you're missing. So
I see. Oh man, but yeah, it's gonna be a really interesting, weird, and rough time for the internet with AI and now this. I mean, is this a good thing? I mean, it's a bit more of a, would you say it's draconian in a way, I suppose? But I mean,
it's very heavy-handed.
It's quite heavy-handed, but I suppose these same people would argue, banning the cigarette was heavy-handed for people under the age of 18, but they would also kind of conflate, cigarette damage to youngsters to be a similar thing as social media damage to their psyche as well, for better or for worse. But yeah, anyway, I think that was our last thing finally.
Yeah, well, stop yapping now.
You stop yapping.
Stop your yapping.
All right, which means there's only one thing left to do, and that's for you to take it away, Leah.
Oh, thank you so much for watching / listening to this week's Gamers Week in Gaming. We have been your gamers, Leah and Myre. That has been your gaming. I hope you have a wonderful week playing whatever it is you end up playing. Please catch us live on Twitch on Tuesdays now from 3 p.m. GMT we are currently in. And we're also on Spotify when Myre remembers to upload, and YouTube these days. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
That's slander, by the way.